And hey, last but not least, one of my guys there, one of my favorites in the SEC, Nate Edwards of Rock M Nation, does an outstanding job covering the Missouri Tigers with the Beyond the Box Score podcast and all the work he does at Rock M Nation, part of the SB Nation banner. So let's kick it over to our interview with Nate Edwards. Have a little fun with my guy after Missouri signed a historically great class in Eli Drinkwitz's second season there as the leader of the program. Well, we're pleased to once again be joined by Nate Edwards, who does an outstanding job for Rock M Nation. He's the editor and writer over there, and you got to give him a follow on social media, Nate G. Edwards. And he has the go-to Missouri podcast on Rock M Nation Network, Before the Box Score podcast. Nate, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad to be back. This is what, third time I get to be on the show. This is excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I honestly, that's kind of what we try to do here. You know, we try to pride ourselves on, we try to hit on all the teams in the SEC, not the two that are in the playoff or the one with the scandal over here. We try to hit on all 14. So I really do appreciate you. You keep coming back. I haven't scared you off yet.
Not yet. We'll see how you do this time.
Well, of course, I wanted to reach out to you because, we just had, I don't know if you're calling it National Signing Day these days or just the early signing period, but it really is, the main recruiting time of the year. And man, while it was drama free, the day for Missouri for the most part, historically great class for the Missouri Tigers. And that's kind of something that you hit on the Before the Box Score podcast. Now, it sounds like you don't like the drama. Can you get into that and why it was such a drama-free day for Eli Drinkwitz and company?
Yeah, when you think of recruiting day drama, signing day drama, you usually imagine blue chippers or a guy that you really, really want who someone else is going after too. And you're like, oh, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. And it's just, it's nerve-wracking. And it always kind of feels like no matter what team you enjoy, if you have a drama-filled day, it usually goes poorly. Like you're going to forget all the good ones that you got. You're going to think of the ones that got away. And frankly, I like drama-free signing days. I want to know that the kids who committed to the school are sticking to it. They're not entertaining any other offers. They've shut it down. They're saying, yes, this is where I'm going to go. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm not entertaining anybody else. And just knowing that you can wake up and say, we've got 16 guys. We're getting 16 guys faxing in their NLIs, and then we're done. To me, that is a perfect recruiting day with no headaches, no stress pulling. And you just go, yep, we got our guys. Let's move on and let's make it happen.
Mm-hmm. And on your show, you also, man, this is a great nugget here that I caught in Drinkwitz 2 classes at Missouri. He signed more blue chip recruits than Missouri's previous 5 recruiting classes combined. So safe to say that Drinkwitz has embraced the fact that, recruiting rankings and all that really does matter on the field. When Drinkwitz got hired, I mean, I'm sure you see it, all these other SEC fans, look at this nerd. This is Stu from The Office. You know what I mean? Did you foresee this coming, all this recruiting success under Eli Drinkwitz, and how impressed are you by it?
I mean, you look at the staffs that he's been on. He was on the Auburn staff as a GA when they got Cam Newton the bag. So, okay, he's seen that. But it's Boise State, it's Arkansas State, it's NC State. Like these are good teams, not really known for their recruiting acumen. Boise gets the overlooked California guys. Arkansas State gets the overlooked Texas guys. Like that's kind of how they made their recruiting base. And, at App State, this 1 year, like he inherited one recruiting class and barely put together another one. So like we were hiring the guy, buying low as a younger coach, a younger offensive minded coach. That's why we got him. There's a lot of energy around him, but it was like, okay, you break up with your ex and you go with someone who's the complete opposite, young offensive guy. He checked those boxes. What we didn't anticipate was his salesmanship, his not only energy about the program and his job, but the energy of getting kids to buy in. And that pitch man that he's kind of turned into, not only with recruits, but really harnessing the cats that are the Missouri booster corps. He has really been able to put all that together, get them rowing in the same direction, get the money for NLI, get the money for these kids. And he has been able to sell this program unlike any of the coaches that we've had before. Now, granted, that's two. That's Gary Pinkel and Barry Odom, but this is what happens when you have energy and when you have youth and you have a savvy salesman. He day of, he put on billboards in Kansas City and St. Louis, he put the names and faces of the kids who recruited, who committed to Mizzou, put them up that day. That's how you recruit. That's how you program pitch. And that's how you quote unquote lock down the borders and keep the talent in. We had no idea that he could do this. Like you said, he's just a short, chubby nerd, but like he's got that energy, he's got that salesmanship, and that's been a wonderful treasure to find out as the years has gone on.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's overlooked, not just for Drinkwitz, but every coach in the country, but particularly I'm thinking of guys that are basically two recruiting classes in. The 2021 class, you couldn't even meet with them. There was no visits. It was all Zoom. And then this one, which is even better than his first class, I believe half the recruiting calendar was the same deal. You couldn't host prospects. You couldn't meet with them. So, man, it's impressive when you sit here and think, he's basically had, I think, about half a year of in-person contact. Yet here he is with, I believe, the SEC's number 4 recruiting class as it stands right now. So, I mean, that is terrific. And the jewel of the class, of course, everyone fired up about Luther Burden, got him to stay home. He had offers from every place in the country and really had to beat out Georgia to land the elite number 1 receiver in the country. Yeah, thoughts on Luther Burden, of course. You went on and on about it on your podcast, and why wouldn't you? Because he's going to be your most dynamic playmaker potentially from day one there at Missouri. But in addition to him, I'm not trying to slight the rest of the receiving corps at Missouri, but I don't know if there's a true number 1, at least at the elite SEC level on Missouri's roster. Now, if you potentially got that Luther Burden, to me, that upgrades your entire receiving corps because you got nice pieces. There's just, like I said, you just don't have that dominant number 1, which you assume you're getting with Luther Burden. So what does his addition do to that entire room and that entire offense?
It makes everybody's job easier, from the quarterback to especially the receivers. That is your number 1. Every receiver on this roster currently has a skill, one specific skill. Mookie Cooper is very much a jitterbug, get him out in space. Dominic Lovett is let him run a 9 route, get downfield and catch the ball. Towski Dove is kind of your possession guy. He'll get you 6 yards. Chance Looper, JJ Hester, they seem to be dynamic athletes, but they just haven't put it together yet. So everybody's trying to punch above their weight. Everybody's being asked to do more than what they're comfortable doing. And that's led to a passing offense for the past 2 years that's just been efficiency based. Some people might say, oh, it's just bad. You can call it bad. Oh, okay. It's efficiency based. It's going to get you, if you need 3 yards, it's going to get you 3 yards. If you need 5 yards, it'll get you 4 yards. It's safe. It's, short, but it's getting yards that you want for successful plays. If you're asking the passing game to blow it open and get an explosive play, we don't have those guys yet. We don't have the scheme yet. Maybe don't even have the quarterback yet, but who knows? So having Burden in there, who can do it all, who can actually do it all. He's the number 1 receiver for a reason. That gives everybody room to cook at their own speed, whatever they want to do. Now Mookie Cooper can be the screen guy. Now Dominic Lovett can be the 9 route guy. Now everyone can be more comfortable and not have to feel like they have to do more than what they are naturally going to do. You still need a quarterback who can throw the ball to them accurately. You still need an offense that schemes guys open to make explosive plays. But this is going to make it, we think, is going to make this passing game way, way more dynamic. Just by the fact that you got the number 1 receiver on the field, who will probably be the best player on the field, I don't know, 75% of the time. And it's going to make everybody, the defense, have to pay attention to them. It should open everything up. And if it doesn't, then we have some serious questions.
Now, aside from the 5-star Luther Burden, Is there a player that stands out to you that you believe will make the biggest impact for Missouri on the field, specifically next season?
So, I mean, to answer your question directly, it's going to be Tavoris Jones, who is a 4-star running back out of El Paso. Wanted to go to Texas, was a Texas kid since he was born. He wanted nothing more than play for the Longhorns, and they said, we don't have any room for you. So he's now a Missouri Tiger. He is walking into a running back room that is young and unproven. And it kind of felt like this 2021 season was, yes, Tyler Beatty's last season, but it was also a chance for Elijah Young, who redshirted last year, to kind of make a statement as a solid number 2. And what we saw instead was a walk-on named Michael Cox get all of those reps. So at this point, this running back room's got a bunch of dudes in it, and no one who's kind of like the guy. So you insert a blue chip running back from Texas. Guess what? He's probably going to be the guy or one of the guys who's going to be getting starting level snaps, who's going to have an immediate impact, who's going to be on the field in a way that you can say, okay, yeah, this is how he makes this team better. This is how he makes this offense better because, buddy, you have seen this Tiger offense the past 2 years. It is running back heavy. So if they can't find one guy, they certainly have 2 guys, 3 guys who can do that, and everyone's going to get their shot. But Tavoris Jones comes in with the highest pedigree of all of them.
And how long do you think it will be before it's realistic for 4-star quarterback Sam Horn to be in discussion to be Missouri's starting quarterback? I know they've got quite a few talented arms down there in Columbia now. And do you ever recall Missouri landing the number 9 quarterback in the country? And it's kind of like ho hum. I mean, it's just a wild time to me.
It is. Not a whole lot of blue chip quarterbacks who, kind of get second billing, especially at Missouri. Drew Lock kind of was that because he committed early, and then he was kind of the crown jewel of the class, and then Terry Beckner Jr. Committed the day of, and he kind of became the guy. But yeah, guess what? Sam Horn has all of the tools to be a starting SEC quarterback. The issue that you're running into right now is that Drinkwitz for the past 2 years has shown with his actions that Bazelak is his guy. Just flat out. Even at 70% and injured, he would prefer to trot out Bazelak than Brady Cook or Tyler Macon. So what we're running into that stubbornness, and that's why I'm hesitant to think that we're going to see Sam Horn, snap one of game 1. I do think. Well, let me rephrase that. I hope that Drinkwitz sees the opportunity here and rotates in Horn for getting some reps, especially in the early, the first 2 games we're at Middle Tennessee and at Kansas State. Get him in there and see what he can do. He has got the similar skill set to Bazelak with the addition of he can and will run, and oh, by the way, can hit the deep ball. So it's kind of like you're getting a rich man's Connor Bazelak. So if you're going to roll out Bays, that's fine, but I want to make sure that he gets some series in there too. It is my hope that by the time we get to the end of 2022, Sam Horn is your guy. Bazelak has, ceded the reins, maybe transferred. I don't know. But I don't anticipate leaving spring practice with 4 quarterbacks on the roster. I do anticipate some transfers. I don't know who, but kind of depending on that is when the quarterback depth shakes out. But I certainly think Sam Horn is going to be the best of them.
Because Missouri got such a historically great class, I wanted to ask you, and maybe this is this may be a tough one to answer, but do you credit that more to Drinkwitz and his coaching staff doing a great job, or is this a historically great year of in-state talent? As I know, as soon as he showed up, he prioritized the surrounding area, and that's what every coach says they want to do, but they actually have gone out and done it. So I don't know. Do you credit it to having so much elite talent around, or is it more just the coaches just working so hard on the recruiting trail? Do you think?
I mean, they kind of like with anything, and the answer is going to be both. It was 2018 was the first really greatest recruiting class ever in the state of Missouri. Now I'm going to list off a couple of names, and a lot of these you're going to go, who? But Trevor Trout, Michael Thompson, Mario Goodrich, Ronnie Perkins, Cameron Babb, Daniel Parker Jr., Dallas Cradith, all those guys were 4 stars. That was the most blue chip talent in the state of Missouri ever. Now, Barry Odom at the time was coming off of a 7-6 season where he started 1-6. So guess what? They really weren't all that interested. Trevor Trout went to USC. Mike Thompson went to Oklahoma. Mario Goodrich went to Clemson. Ronnie Perkins, you probably remember that name of all of them. He was drafted by the Sooners or out of Oklahoma as a defensive end. Cameron Babb at Ohio State's kind of a bit player. But Daniel Parker Jr. was the only one that signed with Missouri. He was the only 4-star who did it. And he was a defensive end and he switched to tight end. So that was kind of the biggest, like, okay, there's a lot of talent here. Then 2019, it's a similar thing. Isaiah Williams, probably don't remember him, but Jamison Williams of Alabama, who started Ohio State. You got Jelani Williams, who signed with Missouri, Marcus Washington, who's playing at Texas. And then in 2020, you got more. You got Jordan Johnson, who went to Notre Dame. Mookie Cooper went to Ohio State, came to Missouri. Dante Manning, Antonio Doyle Jr. Like, there is a lot of talent in Missouri, is my point. And previous staffs, the Pinkel staff could get 1 or 2. Odom couldn't get any of them. Drinkwitz is backing this up by being an incredible pitch man. And then, also, by the way, emphasizing Kansas City and St. Louis recruiting. So the issue with the cities, especially St. Louis, is that there's been a lot of distrust between the city and the school that stems from the 90s and how those staffs treated the kids from St. Louis. That's been a long process to mend those fences. It started with Pinkel. It didn't do so great with Odom, but Drinkwitz and his staff have done a great job of emphasizing the importance of those two cities and the suburbs and the surrounding areas. And so now that there is talent, there's always been talent, but now that there's blue chip talent and those relationships are established and the staff is going after them, you put those 3 things together, that's where you start getting your magical recruiting gumbo. And now we're really paying off with those relationships and all that effort because these kids are here and now they think it's cool to go to Mizzou, which has not been the case for the past 30 years.
All right, last recruiting question for you. I'm sure you saw it, but wanted to get your thoughts on Drinkwitz in his press conference. I'd say he challenged the fans and prominent boosters to say, hey, we got Fortune 500 companies here with now that we're in the NIL era, and he wants the fans to support the team and fill those stands. What was your thoughts when you saw that from Coach Drinkwitz?
I was all about it. I'm fully in favor of that. And that's a stance that Rock M Nation has taken. And we have been pilloried for taking that stance. We've been saying that we've been fan shaming, a lot of bad faith arguments being made about this. But here's the deal. Your listenership knows this. Ask anybody in Tuscaloosa, ask anybody in Auburn or Tallahassee, you can make a difference with your dollar. And that's something that the South understands and that we are trying to kind of figure out. Look at Clemson, right? The IPTAY program, the I Pay 10 a year, every single alum pays $10 a year to the athletics program. That's all they ask. Now they also leverage, multi-million-dollar donations and all that stuff. But if you can create a consistent, solid base from your alumni, it doesn't have to be a lot, but if you can create that gives you money to play with, especially in the area of NIL, where you can put together some pretty interesting packages for compensation for advertising or what have you, and lure these recruits to your school. Drinkwitz saying that out loud, I applaud it. It's not something that I think a lot of coaches would be willing to do, or they do it in a negative manner, like looking at you, Gary Patterson. But it's just being frank. He understands that this is the show me state, which I always roll my eyes at that. But we know that you got to show something for us to buy in. And he said, I'm working on the product. Something you can do is give us some more money to play with to improve that product faster. And what we said on the podcast yesterday was at some point, Missouri fans just need to buy in with faith instead of buy in with proof. That's just, the SEC is too competitive. It's too talented to sit on your hands and just scowl until your team gets better and then you give them money. You gotta have both at the same time. So I am very happy that he said it out loud. I hope that turns into actual dollars for the program. I am going to do my part and donate to the Tiger Scholarship Fund. I hope any Missouri fans who listen to this show do the same thing, but we got to get those coffers filled, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but it's got to be more than what we're currently giving. And I hope that does change in the near future.
All right, last thing for you, Nate. Really appreciate all the time, but hey, we got a bowl game here, and
Oh, we do.
this will be the first SEC bowl game of bowl season here. It's on, I believe, Wednesday, December 22nd against Army. How in the heck Missouri ended up in the Armed Forces Bowl, I'll never know. But on paper, maybe a nightmare matchup considering Army rushes for 286 yards per game.
Mm-hmm.
We all know Missouri's issues there, but let's credit this defensive staff because the last month of the season, they kind of cleaned that up. They're not elite by any means, but they're not abysmal either defending the run. So, and they're going to have several weeks to practice, get ready for this Army rushing attack. What's your thoughts on the Armed Forces Bowl, and can Missouri escape with the win here?
Missouri defense, not abysmal, is a hell of a slogan, but that's kind of where we're at. Look, Army makes teams look really stupid. That's kind of what the service academies do. They trot out a bunch of unranked 2-star guys, and they beat you by tactic and scheme. Missouri has not done well with the triple option historically. I mean, obviously the last thing I can really think about it would be the Navy bowl game in 2009, where they just ran us off the field. It takes efforts. It takes really, really smart play, knowing your assignment, and it's hoping that you can win in a rock fight. The defensive line has obviously kind of struggled against the run. They've cleaned that up, but linebackers were also out of position. They were out of position playing Central Michigan and Tennessee, let alone a triple option team, which specializes in making linebackers be out of position. So it's not going to be great. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm not. If Missouri wins, it's going to be close. I went back through all of Army's bowl games over the past decade. It doesn't matter who they play. Everything's a one possession game. Well, except for Houston, which clearly gave up. But they play one possession games. That's how they're decided. And they've beaten much better teams than Missouri. However, they've not beaten a Power 5 opponent in a bowl game. So that's the thread I'm hanging on to for dear life here. I do think that, Tyler Beatty is going to go out with a bang. Even if this Army defense is good at stopping the run, I think he can break through good defenses kind of no matter what. I think it's going to be a little more pointsy than you might think. I'll probably pick Army 31-28, but we'll see. I know this team is motivated to win, especially after being snubbed from bowls for the past 2 years, even though being eligible. So kind of about motivation. And if they're motivated to win, I think they can, but Army's going to make it very, very ugly.
Oh my gosh, Nate, I forgot one thing. I know I said last question, but real quick, Eli Drinkwitz, may the force be with you. I haven't asked you about that. I mean, I love it. I love any pettiness we can get in college football. What'd you think of that?
I loved it. I loved it. The delivery was terrible. The setup was kooky. It was forced, and I don't care because Dan Mullen sucks. I think everybody on this podcast will agree to that now. He sucks as a person. He sucks as a coach. And to be able to stick it right in his eye with the same joke he made 365 days earlier, that was so sweet. It's very sweet, and I'm glad it happened, and I'm glad he got fired because it's just perfect.
All right, and that's a perfect ending to this interview. So he's Nate Edwards. Give him a follow at Nate G. Edwards. Follow him over at Rock M Nation, all the content they're doing over there. And don't forget to check out the podcast. I listen to every episode of the Rock M Nation Before the Box Score podcast. Nate, I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Mike. MIZ.